Welcome to Grange TV, first ever podcast with Mr. David Roberts, TAFE extraordinaire, and the reigning, defending, undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world, Mr. Robert Whittaker. Welcome, guys. Welcome to our listener at home.
Listener, there's one.
The one listener, welcome. You're a good person.
Hi, Mom.
Go, Rob, hit us. Introduce yourself to us.
My name's Rob Whittaker. I am a UFC middleweight. I'm the current UFC middleweight champion. I'm pretty good at fighting. I'd like to think. And I love it.
I just want to take my first ever opportunity to introduce myself to people on any sort of media. And my name's Fabricio. I work with Rob a little bit. With my business partner, Alex Pradas, we run Gracie Smith and Grange. And I'm also a teacher here at TAFE. Been a TAFE teacher for about 13 years or something like that. Dave, do you want to explain a little bit about the GAP program, a little bit about Rob's role in the GAP program?
Yeah, so pretty much, Fab and I have been working together for a while, and we've always wanted to try new ways to engage Aboriginal people in programs and stuff like that. So we worked on defence, fire and rescue, any sort of big industry partnership program you can think of. Fab and I have done it. But we've always had this sort of passion to look at sort of, how do we use contemporary sort of, mixed martial arts mediums to communicate to kids? Because, Rob, you've studied yourself, and sometimes the jargon and the crap that they talk about in class you can't understand. But if you put it into real context of this is how it's going to impact on your body, this is how you got to eat to be a professional athlete, it changes stuff. And then to have yourself come onto the program and reinforce that and say, hey, I'm live down the road and this is how I do it, and I'm a champion. It's trippy, right?
What kind of because it'll be probably hard for Rob, even though he's a narcissist, to explain. What would his impact be in community?
I think the hardest part is there's no words to describe it. Like when you're coming from, I grew up in the local Minto area, House Commission, no real role model. And, even now, sitting at the table with someone who is going to Las Vegas and fighting on the grandest stage, and the stories and the knowledge that comes with that, how can you not be inspired? So taking that to a little kid down in Brewarrina, or, we've taken you out to some of those remote communities, how do you comprehend that magnitude and realize that these people exist, just not on a little screen on the computer, on the TV?
Absolutely. This is a long intro for you, Rob, but I forget a lot because I see Rob all the time. I see you all the time, so I don't really get it sometimes until, say, we've been out in community and I see the impact that it has on the kids. Do you want to talk a little bit what that's been like for you, like the GAP program, which is the Gracie Aboriginal Pathways program?
Yeah, so the GAP program has been probably one of the biggest impacts to me as a person in my entire life, apart from obviously a major milestone such as having a family, getting married. As a person, and the rate of growth that I underwent was massive when I went out to these communities like Moree and Tablum, and I got to meet these kids, got to meet these guys that, they genuinely look up to me, and that kind of puts a responsibility on my shoulders to give them something worth looking up to. And just to also show them that I'm not much more different than you guys. I just apply my skill set differently.
What was Tablum like? Remember when we went to catch the turtles and I caught 30 or 40 turtles that day?
Okay, you caught absolutely none. And the few that our lovely host did catch, he told you to hold on to it. He says, hold on to it. I was like, Fab, I'm coming. Hold on to it. Because I've never seen a river turtle ever.
Did you get to see it?
I didn't even get to touch it. Didn't see it, didn't touch it. And I walked over and I was like, Fab, don't just hold on to it, mate. Don't do anything. And then I hear a scream and a yelp. and then it was gone. And I go, what happened, mate? And he goes, and I quote, you said it went for my jugular.
Yes. I heard the same story. It was the Ninja Turtle.
The Ninja Turtle, apparently.
What was that? Let's not talk about it. Let's just talk about what Tablum was like.
It was absolutely beautiful. To go out there in the Northern Rivers, it was absolutely beautiful. To go out there, the water was crystal clear. There was no sounds except the wildlife, and it was one of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had.
You know, it tripped me out, Dave. Like, you know, when you talk about like Aboriginal people and the connection to country, like the connection to land. I can't say I was connected to the land because I was scared of the turtle, but like I can honestly see how that would happen. Like if you lived out there, like, and you'd been living out there for 60,000 years, like your family had just like it's so just there's nothing there but you and your interaction with the land, so to speak. I think that's one of the things you said to me was you experienced a certain amount of stillness out there.
Yeah, it was eerie almost, you know, to go out there and, you know, you think you know silence. You know, you think you understand what quiet is when you're at home and there's no cars on the road and you can't hear much.
Kids are not crying.
But going out there in the early mornings in the Northern Rivers up there, like there was nothing. There's like, it's so quiet and natural that it makes its own sort of noise that resonates with you. And yeah, you know, I think that's as close as I've ever become one with nature, to be fair. And I think I'm still a great deal away from it, but it was absolutely unreal.
I think they're going to talk about me for a long time. How about, did you come close to catching a kangaroo? I heard that you guys came close to catching a kangaroo.
So the cart train stopped all of a sudden. And we hopped out, and Cody Walker's uncles and brothers were out there barefoot, flying up these mountains, down these mountains, just flying up to this kangaroo. And I had shoes on, and I'm trying to navigate like which trail do I take. And I was butchering the wildlife trying to chase this.
They were chasing the kangaroo because they shot it.
Yeah,
right? Somebody shot it, and they're chasing the kangaroo. And I was watching him run down the escarpment barefoot. And I was watching Rob. I didn't even try. And I was watching Rob navigate it. And I had this thing of calling Dana White, saying, look, he was chasing a kangaroo down a ravine. And he fell over. And he's going to be out for a while. He's broken his neck. And,
yeah, that was in the lead up to Romero too. So.
That was in the lead up to Romero.
Yeah, it was. Not the smartest idea, but it was great fun. It was like, and you know what spun me out? It was like they were walking barefoot through nettles.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have ever been hit with a nettle, but it hurts, man.
Yeah, remember I got hit with a nettle.
Yeah, and it stings, it flares up, and then it's itchy. And
Eli, that works. He was saying to me that you should piss on it.
No.
How crazy was that, bud?
Just seeing the way they, like, the car train stopped again earlier on, and they hopped out, and they said, we saw a goanna, and it was like this big, and they were like looking for it in the bushes, like trying to grab it. I was like staying 2 cars behind, going, hey, you found it yet, boys? Like, I'm not putting my hand near any holes where there's a goanna this big.
Yeah.
Like, that's not happening. But they, unfazed, different way of life.
It's cool, though. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing because, like, I love seeing that when we do a traditional slant on it now. But imagine back in the day when they just had a spear and they're miles away and you got to throw it. Then you end up having to chase it around. Like, no wonder why people were super thin and fit back then, because he wouldn't eat.
And you know what's crazy about that as well? Like, let's say you threw a boomerang at something, but you would have to spend 3 weeks making a boomerang.
Yeah.
It's not like you could just go buy one. You'd have to spend 3 weeks making a boomerang, peg it at something, miss, go down and get it because you spent 3 weeks. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah. So we started doing traditional axe making here, and that process could take us up to like 2-3 weeks, and that's just like a little chunk of wood with a rock in it. So you get a new taste of like what's it like to live. You know, like we take so much stuff for granted, and back then,
I think the connection as well with land is like when you see, say, how much effort it takes to catch one little turtle. And imagine you want to have a feed of
A
turtle.
ninja turtle that goes for the juggler.
Dude, that was crazy, that turtle. So I was trying to give everyone the experience. I'll put my life on the line, but I'm saying, imagine you'd have to catch how many turtles? 30 turtles for.
It depends how big the family is. Like, yeah, I saw some of the families out there. There's like 30 of them.
Yep.
So you'd have to catch all those turtles. Like how you see the meat on your plate. You have to go out and catch a kangaroo. You have to make the tools to catch the kangaroo.
Yeah.
And they did that without goggles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, goggles, imagine. And then we're swimming and like I can barely see with goggles and I'm putting my hand in the mush hoping I just grab something because let's be honest, I'm not going to see the turtle. And then they scream out, watch out for eels.
And catfish.
And
Catfish are nasty.
They're mean, eh?
Yeah.
And that's when I said, yeah, I've had enough of this experience. So.
That was another cool Dana White movie.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. How do you explain that?
Yeah, he got done by a catfish and then a brown snake.
A brown snake and then the eel just
The eel ate him.
You know what's a great experience is we on the way to the rivers we stopped off in some town that I'll never find it ever again. It was in some gully behind some hill, so far away from civilization. Yeah. And Fab was trying to explain a double piccolo to this guy, who has he speaks to the community civilization maybe once every 2 years or something. And he's like, "Can I have a double piccolo, please?" And the guys are looking at him "Wow."
That is true. That is true.
The coffee was good, but
I don't think so, but
it wasn't a piccolo.
No.
What was it?
It was dirty water with a bit of milk.
See, that's what happens when you take a boy out of Ashcroft and take him to Las Vegas and become
I've become civilized. On the subject of preparation for Romero, who you did fight, what did you think of the fights on the weekend, Romero versus Rockhold?
Yeah, I thought it was a great fight to watch. It was very unique. I think Romero went out there and he looked completely opposite to what he usually does when he goes in there. And you can't be sure whether, because he was mentioning a back injury earlier, you can't be sure if it was the back injury and that's what prevented him from not doing his usual explosive, unorthodox movement patterns, or if it was a game plan because it worked so well. He stood at perfect range for Rockhold, predicted all his strikes, all his combos. When Rockhold couldn't kick, because he always leaves the kick or tries to, doesn't really set up his kick too well, he'd check it. When Rockhold would work with his combos, no more than 2 or 3, he'd block them. And then he'd just explode moving forward, landing punches, not overextending too much. And once he started realizing, okay, he's not knocked out, he backed it up, took a breath, did absolutely nothing till he was ready to explode again. Genius or injured? Who knows?
Were you impressed?
Yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed with Romero's confidence in Rockhold's patterns. He was for Romero, for anyone to go in there and put on that sort of game plan and that sort of show. He had undoubted confidence and prediction of what Rockhold was going to do, and Rockhold did it.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that for what it is that you're seeing? Because I was sitting next to you. We were actually watched it with the GAP program. I was sitting next to you, and you predicted quite a few things that were occurring in the fight. And I'm a very perceptive person, and I realised you've probably done this stuff before. So I'm like this,
oh no, you're on fire, man.
Always on fire, mate. Never take a day off. So explain what you meant by confidence in the patterns, if you could elaborate on that for us.
Okay, if you looked at the fight that Rockhold had earlier with Branch, and you wrote down what Rockhold did in that fight, jab, cross, fadeaway hook, or check hook, lead left calf kick, lead left calf kick, right push kick. And you just wrote that down, and then you gave it to Romero Romero went, okay, and he built his whole game plan and structure and style to this, only this, just this. And he went in there with his confidence. That's why he had that 70% striking defense, was because Rockhold was doing everything that Romero knew he was going to do. And once Rockhold, I don't know, once they started the fight, Rockhold threw 2 low calf kicks. Romero, which checked him quite nicely, injured Rockhold's calf, stopped kicking. He was always out of range for that. He never exploded forward for that right lead body kick. You know what I mean?
You were preparing to fight Rockhold. So just for the viewers, sometimes when people are explaining, Rob's explaining his opinion, just you were preparing for Rockhold. You're not oversimplifying or saying that Rockhold is an easy fight.
By no means. Rockhold's one of the most dangerous fighters because he has a game plan that is very, very dangerous. And if he gets that off, you're done. As he's shown, all the way up through to his title shot, to having the title.
What do you think would have been the key things for Rockhold to do to implement his game plan? What could he have done different?
He needed to put more pressure on Romero. He needed to keep Romero guessing, and he needed to keep him off him. He needed to change angles when he backed up to avoid getting hit with his heavy hands. He just moved back in one line, and that, you saw the way Romero flurries in, and that's not something new Romero's done. He's done that a bunch of times, where he just goes in and throws heavy lead over the top. Usually finishes with a takedown. Wasn't interested in a takedown this fight, but that's what he does. Rockhold was just moving back in a straight line. Once his back hit the fence, he had nowhere to go. Took some big shots.
How good's Romero?
In what?
Fighting.
At salsa?
We all know he's very good at salsa.
He's great at salsa.
Yeah. Fighting?
I think he's so...
When you fought him, So how good is he?
He's very good. He is so unpredictable. And I think half the time that is because he doesn't know what he's doing until he does it. He hit me with, I think, 3 back-to-back flying knees. Back-to-back, just 1, 2, 3. That's not a combo you work. I don't know any striking coach. None of my striking coaches have never said, you know what, Rob, let's do this today. His combos, you can't look at his combo, the way he finished Rockhold, and say he practiced that. He just, because he's swinging from so many different angles. He punched the dude's leg a couple of times.
That was weird.
He's there's a method to his madness, because I find him incredibly intelligent.
He knows his skill sets, and he knows what he needs to do and what works. So if he starts moving in his unorthodox patterns, and he's got heavy hands, and then he's got you guessing, is he going to back fist my thigh? Is he going to shoot? Is he going to flying knee me? Your mind's all over the shop, and all he needs to worry is about, what am I going to do next? And just wait till something hits you, because that's how he's finished so many guys. It's just a matter of time where, which one's going to land? Which one's going to finish you? Which one's going to hurt you? And I'm going to pounce on you.
How difficult is it to implement a game plan to try and keep him off you?
It's very hard, because he can close the gap very, very fast. He's very explosive, and contrary to his look, he doesn't look it. But
he looks weak. He's weak and slow.
He's very explosive. So, and the thing is, he's not just explosive. He doesn't just move forward. He does a hop, skip, duck under, then goes forward, and does all that in 1 second. So, unpredictably explosive is a dangerous mix for everyone. Not to mention, he's got the work ethic. He won't quit. He'll go out on a shield, and he's tough as nails.
How, because I'm involved with your coaching and that, and I remember even when we were there and the embedded people and other people saying to us, he's going to gas. And I never thought he was going to gas. And people still say it now. They said, he slowed down. And how much did Romero gas in those 5 rounds?
The thing is, no less than I did. It's just that he starts to slow down from what he was in the first round, or the first 30 seconds of every round, and he starts to look human. He goes from so explosive and erratic and unpredictable to moving normally, like a normal person. And people think that's him slowing down. He's gassing. But no, he's just moving at normal speed.
Yeah, most of his finishes have all come in the third round.
The late rounds. And he's like, he flying kneed Chris Weidman in the third round.
Yeah.
So it's a third round knockout and a flying knee. If you're tired and you're gassed, you're not flying knee.
He flying knee you late in the fight too.
Yeah, a bunch of times. He's always got it in him. He's got gas. His tempo is different though, and I think a lot of people don't understand his tempo because of how erratic and unpredictable he is.
What are some of the things you do to deal with that?
To beat Romero, you need to take the fight with him. You can't be worried about his wrestling, his takedowns, his power. You can't fall into his game plan because that's what his entire game plan is, to make you worry about him. He's like, what am I going to do next? And that's what he wants you to think. You need to just say, I'm going to work the body, I'm going to work straight line punches so that he can't get a shot off, and I'm just going to keep going forward. I'm just going to keep backing him up so he has nowhere to move. And then you just got to try and hit him. You got to just try and do damage.
So, like myself or David, we could implement that.
Easily.
We could do it then.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
How hard is it though, with all jokes aside, how hard is that? Because you said that, how hard is that to implement?
Ridiculously hard. He's so hard to hit. He moves so well. He moves left,
and he can
right,
take a shot
back.
too.
And he's tough. So not only is it hard to actually get to hit him, once you've hit him, he just looks at you. And he did this in the fight with me. He goes, I was like, you're a bastard. Shut up.
You know how sometimes you do that, but you know you hurt the good?
Yeah.
Did you think you'd actually
Not at all. I knew I didn't hurt him.
What'd you hit him with?
I kicked him in the face, and he just gets. I was like, you're a jerk.
How hard did you get him?
It was more foot than anything. It wasn't shin. But like, still, that wasn't even demoralizing because I knew you look at him and you don't think weak chin.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
you know you're not going to get. It's going to be a big night.
It's one of those guys like, I need to cut you up so that the ref stops it, or I need to hurt you to the point where you're dying and the ref throws in the towel, or your teammates throw in the towel. And something like that. Which I don't think he's going because his teammates are as crazy as he is.
He had a really good corner in that thing. I really liked him. Like I loved his translator. He didn't have him here in Perth.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Romero did a lot of his own talking.
He did.
Spoke for himself a lot.
He did. He absolutely did.
In his broken English.
He's the best. I actually liked him. I gave him a hug that day, and
I said, come out to Australia and teach me some tricks. I think I'm gonna have to take that off the back.
No, later, probably after. But he's like a put together dude, man.
Find one other 40-year-old that looks like him and does what he does. Because you can look like him, but you can't move.
I can't look like him any age.
Maybe not you, not me either. Like I don't have the body for it, but there are guys in their 40s that are jacked and lift a lot of weights and look very good. They bodybuild and whatnot, but can you do a backflip in the octagon?
No.
Just as your warm-up.
That's what he does. Have you seen him do it?
Yeah.
Walks in and does a backflip.
Backflip. It's like, can you do that?
But on that, I was just, because I hear this sometimes when people talk, like you can win a fight and you can look good winning a fight. Say against like Jacare, who's in my opinion was an absolute legend. If you had to fight Jacare again, how do you feel with that?
It's 50-50. He is an absolute killer. He's one of the best fighters in the world. You think he's never lost before? You think he doesn't know how to come back from adversity? To be in the top 5, you've done that. You've been there. And especially at his caliber, he's done that. He's been there. He's come back from losses. So I have to take the fight as if I have every chance of losing again. And I need to prepare to fight the best dude in the world, which he is, Graham. He's one of the best fighters in the world. And I need to give him that respect, otherwise I won't do him justice and I'll lose.
How tough was he?
Oh, super tough. I was landing a lot of good shots on him. I was landing a lot of good shots. And even when I landed that last kick and you went to the ground and I was trying to finish him and I was landing big elbows, big hands, big heavy shots, and he was cut up, bleeding. He was still moving.
Dude, he recovered guard.
I'm pretty sure if the ref let it go, he would have rolled into it and just pulled guard, and then it would become a jiu-jitsu match. It would have been horrible.
He's like one dude that, as I was watching the fight, like, because I'm a huge fan of his. Obviously, I was going for you. But
on the walkout, I looked around when Jacare was walking out. I was looking around. I looked at Fab and he's gone. I was like, come on.
I'm a big fan, mate.
I was like, come on, mate.
I wasn't, just in case anyone doesn't know. But no, I'm a huge fan of Jacare. I'm huge. And it's kind of like, I was like, he's not going to quit. You know what I mean? He's going to go out and shield completely. And because as much, it just kind of makes you sad. You know what I mean? Like, for me, anyways. Like, but he took some shots. So tough, such a tough guy.
Huge respect.
I have a question for you because it was one of the fights that there were, for me, like as a fan watching you fight and everything. There were two fights three kind of thing that were really impressive to me. That when I saw you fight, I was like, man, this guy's going to go the whole way. Because I mean, I'd seen you before, and I always thought you were talented. But the Stephen Thompson fight, when I saw you fight Stephen Thompson, because I was well aware that who Stephen Thompson was at the time, and I remember when you got matched up with him, you were very young, and he was good. He was looking good. I think around the time, the only loss he had was to Matt Brown, and Stephen Thompson was really green at the time. That was a fight that I really thought, man, this Rob kid can go like the whole way. What was that fight like?
Yeah, it was tough. To be honest, like to be perfectly honest, it wasn't a good fight for me. I think I had a lot of growing to do in terms of like where I was, who I was as a person, who I was as a man, and where I wanted to go with my career in mixed martial arts and how I was going to get there. And at the time, I was spending a lot of time overseas and away from my family, and I'd lost touch with a lot of things that just made me who I was. So the training was disturbed. I was away from my family. I was feeling that. I was feeling homesick. I was missing all my strongest supporters, which was my family, my father, my mother, and my missus at the time. And not at the time.
So I was going to say
current wife. So
as of today, like I thought they were still married.
Yeah, my bad. And
don't worry, no one's going to see this. 100%. She's not going to watch it.
I wasn't confident in my training. I didn't really want to be there. And I feel personally that reflected in my fighting style because I'm a very emotionally driven fella. So when I'm happy, I do well. When I'm happy and I'm feeling good, I perform well. And I've always known that about myself. When I'm sad and angry, I display that. So I was kind of down. I was down and confused. And I feel that fight really does symbolise that.
And he's a good guy to fight like that.
On the best of days. If I was at my best, he would have been, he probably still would have beaten me. So I didn't stack the chips in my favour for that fight. And that was the second fight I had done that. The first one being Court McGee, which was kind of the starting point.
It was another fight that I was impressed with. Because you were young, you were coming up. Like, they were just... I wasn't working with you. I think you were working with Henry at the time. Were you a TriStar for both those fights?
Yes, I was. And that was kind of the starting point for me where I was like... That was the start of my downward slope because that was when I started spending a lot of time overseas, a lot of time from my family, a lot of time from all the things that made me me. And that's when I started losing myself in direction of training, where I wanted to go, what did I want to do, who I wanted to be. And it was after the Stephen Thompson loss that I had a real hard sit down. And it was kind of those crossroads where I'm either going to fix things up and continue on this path and continue fighting and doing more things, or I'm going to just not and just go downhill, do something else.
But when you came back, you rekindled your relationship with Henry and with your other coaches and whatnot. And I don't know how much did that make a difference? Like, or do you think it was just that, or do you think it was just it coincided with the fact that you took those losses and you matured?
It was definitely, and that's the thing. I always think about this. And remember, we always have talks about the butterfly effect and going back in time. If you could change this, would it change everything else? And that's the thing. I can't say that I regret those fights. That I regret doing what I did, because it all led me to here, which is a pretty good position right now, and a much happier position. The biggest thing for me was when I come home and I started rekindled my relationship, not only with my coaches, but with my girlfriend and my family, my dad, my brother, sister, and I rekindled that relationship. And in doing that and in having that foundation under me again, I was a much happier person. I was a much more confident person. And then that translated over to my training, and then my training translated into my fighting. And that's the kind of mentality that I and we have kind of been reinforcing along our path and this whole run up to the title and with the title now.
How important do you think of Dave is for you as well? Like, how important do you reckon having your mind right, having your relationship with your partner, all of that is for your performance in your workplace, for either one of us?
Right, well, I think everyone can relate to this. If you have an argument with your missus, and you go to work, everyone cops it. Everyone cops it. I've been there when someone has forgotten to bring Fab back a kombucha, and the wrestling session feels it. Trust me, mate. The passive anger is, through the roof. But imagine that imagine that like tenfold. 8 weeks away from your family, and you're just feeling alone and lost, and then you have to go fight the best dude in the world at the time, and
they're all the best dudes, but
it's like the hardest fight's the next one.
Yeah, you're going to go, oh no, you're ranked number 7.
Yeah, it makes it easier. Makes it easier.
Much easier.
This isn't a game. It's not a video game with numbers. But like, you tell me, like, how do you feel the emotions from like your family translate over to your workplace?
I think if you don't get grounded in your home life and your family life, other stuff is pointless. Like, or what people do, and I see this a lot, is you overcompensate. So you go full on at work and the other stuff gets completely left behind. So trying to find that balance where you keep everyone happy, because, trying to do stuff that's improving your life, the wife will get mad at you as well. And if you don't spend time with your wife and you neglect the work, then she's angry again because you don't have a job. So, I always said to Fab, it's just like, stay single, dude.
I actually learned that probably, about a year ago. It's like, you can't, I think that's the word of today, is balance. I think that has to be it, because exactly like you said, you put too much time into work and then you go, no, I'll spend the weekend with you. Then the weekend comes and you're like, I really don't want to spend the weekend watching your crap TV shows.
Yeah. Like, whoa. This is Rob saying this. This is Rob and David talking like this. This is not that.
I really just want to play League of Legends with my mates. And then it just doesn't work.
No.
I'm not.
He's shutting up. Smart move. That's our second line of defense. It's just like, quiet, mate. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, what are you going to say?
Oh yeah, no. We'll watch your random girly TV show for the next 48 hours and pretend to love it.
Oh, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah,
you got to pick your battles.
So is the relationship the hardest fight you ever fought, or is it?
No. I think that's a bit of a war. It's constant struggle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always on.
It's always on.
It's always on.
And if that's off, but like your home life is off, Because people forget these are all, no, it's not just Rob or Whittaker. It's like any single person that goes to work, and on top of which, any of the fighters, you don't even know when you watch a fighter and people go, you know what the problem is? Like, it's his jab. And you're like, you don't even know. You have no idea, man. Like, the guys probably had,
like,
anything could have happened.
Like, I'll give
The
you
same stuff that happens to anyone could happen.
100%, and that's why our little thing of like, family needs to be right, the training needs to be right. They both need to be right to get the results you need to get. Everything has to be done properly, you know, and that's a big thing we've always kind of reinforced. But like, here's a little funny thing. On the way out to fight Stephen Thompson, I played an AC/DC song, walkout song, and it made me think of my dad, and I almost cried on the walkout because I hadn't seen him for like 8 weeks. And that messed me up. Yeah. Like, I was like, you know, when you start choking up and you feel a lump in your chest, and I was like, man, I shouldn't pick this song.
And that was on the walkout to Stephen Thompson.
The walkout to Stephen Thompson,
and he's an absolute killer too.
Yeah, so
I should have been walked out there crying. You should have walked out there. I'm not going to be here.
Again, I didn't stack the chips in my favour.
Imagine that, then.
Yeah, just tears gushing. It's like not just crying, like hysterical sobs. Like
that's why it's fascinating. How do you get into that mindset, eh? Like, so you just said music plays a big role because it brings music's emotionally driven. So, like, what is it? Like, because to me, you're walking into a cage with another guy who wants to kick the crap out of you.
So me personally, like, I enjoy fighting. So I get nervous and excited at the same time. So, you know, that kind of is the first part that drives me to get in there in the first place. You have to want to be there. You know what I mean? But on the way out, I try to block out everything. I mentally have exercises that I block out everything. I visualize like walls in my head that I put up, and I try to drown out the crowd and just focus on what I need to do. And when I get in there, I'm just focusing on not what I need to do, just where I am at the time. Because what I need to do is going to happen regardless. I've put in the work. My body's going to react no matter what happens. So it's just about being in the moment and understanding where we are, what I'm doing. And that's why it really annoys me when my opponent is death staring the absolute shit out of me. Like, it does my head in. He's just like, I'm like, look somewhere else. And I don't want to be the first one to look away. So we are locked here, staring at each other for forever. Yeah. It's like, I want to look around. I want to see the crowd. I want to see the lights. I want to see if I can see my missus. But yeah, so everyone has different things though.
Yep, but be present in the moment. That's awesome. Thing.
But in fairness, knowing you how I know inherently you're a fighter. There's no, like, Rob's not like, personal trainer that does some fighting. Like, he's just
your job.
Yeah, more than his job. I think in TAFE we would call it his vocation.
Okay.
So no, it's absolutely like, because I think if you say it's his job, it implies that Fab could do it.
Yeah.
And Fab couldn't do it. Don't laugh at me. What would you fucking laugh at me for?
I love it when you talk about yourself in third person. That Fab could do it. Fab could not do it.
That's so horrible, man. That's a horrible thing to be like that. I'm complimenting you. I'm complimenting you. Unbelievable. But yeah, it would imply that I could do it, or that Fab could do it. Yeah. Fab can't do it. So I don't think, how many people do you look at? Not in the top 5, top 10. I think those guys more or less inherently are what they are. But how many guys do you necessarily see? Obviously, the people that come through the gym and go, I want to be a fighter, and you know that. But how many people do you look at and you go, dude, you probably shouldn't be fighting? Like, because I see different reactions. I see guys that the nerves get to them, but they still, that's not, well, they might even cry, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to fight. Do you know what I mean? That's just a physical manifestation of the adrenaline or whatever. That doesn't mean anything. You can cry or you can whatever. you might not, but you might throw up before a big speech. You still go out there and give a good speech, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you don't. But how many guys do you see that you can sort of tell that they shouldn't be there?
Well, as in coming in through the gym? Or in the UFC? In the UFC
and the upper echelon of the regional shows.
It's funny because who am I to say where they should be? Because obviously they've gotten there through some reason or another. So I'm finding that little concept hard to get.
Oh, okay, no, my mistake. You look at a guy like Jacare. Unequivocally, to me, he looks like you better hit him with a shovel because this dude, he's not going away. But then there's other guys that...
Yeah, 100%. I understand.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of them in the top 20 up. That there's a lot of guys that they don't relish the fight. It doesn't come naturally to them. They're just really talented and good at it. And there's big separation in those two. There are guys that I don't like talking about myself, but like me and like Jacare and like Romero, that when we get put under pressure, our body does things. Our body changes. Our instincts and our responses are different to other people, because that's just where we thrive in the heat of combat. You know, and there's a lot of guys like that at real high up echelon that I think that's what you need to break into that top 5 champion sort of things. And then there's guys that are just super gifted and they've picked MMA, but it could have been anything, and they're good at it. And they use their talent and their ability to go as far as they can until they hit a guy that is as talented as them and works as hard as them, but has a mentality set, a mind frame of, dude, you have to kill me in here to put me away. And that's a big thing. Is that kind of where you were?
Yeah, so you see that a lot. Like, you see that, I'm asking?
Massively. Like I think a good example of that is and this is my personal opinion, because obviously I don't have a doctorate in anything.
Yeah. You have so far from tape.
It's true. I do. But I don't think it grants me to call me Dr. Rob. But Uriah Hall, I think, is very much like that. He's got all the talent in the world, but when push comes to shove and he's backed into a corner, you know, I think there's just something in him that says, maybe I don't want to fight today. Maybe I'd rather be in a pool cruising about, just chilling. You know, maybe I don't need to do this. But then I think he's like, well, but then it pays the bills and I'm really good at it. You know, I've gotten this far.
How good is he, though?
He's unbelievably good. I think he's as talented as anyone else in the entire division.
Because I have it written here, Uriah. That was my next question I was going to ask. Was I rate him very much, and there was another fight where I was very impressed. I thought you both looked. There were 2 good strikers fighting, you know, in MMA, and I guess you kind of answered. But how was the fight? And again, to not. Because I don't want you to be misquoted, so to speak, what was that fight like? It
was a hard fight. I went the distance. I couldn't put him away. He knows what he does. And he knows how to win, and he knows what he's good at. And he's another one of those guys that if you play into his game, if he puts his game plan on you, you're in for a world of trouble. He's got some dangerous moves. He's got the spinning highlight reel that he has is unbelievable. You know, and it's not the first time he's done it. It wasn't like a one-off. He's done it multiple times. So to go on a fight with him, you need to really worry about pushing your game plan on him and making sure he's uncomfortable and he's never in a position where he thrives. And stomp the hell out of his toes.
Explain that to me. Because your dad, not necessarily. Let's not explain the strategy, because you don't. I guess you don't want to put it out there on Uriah. You know what I mean? Like, but explain your dad's reaction to you stomping his toes.
When I stomped Uriah Hall's toes, my dad looked at me after the fight with utter disgust. He goes, "You are a coward." You stomped his bloody toes, Rob. And I was like, I had to. I couldn't take him down. And he was kicking me hard. And he goes, nah, mate. Men don't stomp toes. So, wow. Thanks, Dad.
And
he wasn't impressed with you either.
Why?
Because he blames you for the toe stomping.
Well, it was. I know
this already.
Yeah.
So he owned it.
Oh, yeah. He was so proud of me. Fab was very proud of me. Every time I looked over in the corner, I was like, doing good, man.
But he was a very gifted guy. Like,
it's unbelievably gifted.
Very, very, very dangerous guy. Like, he can. And watching him live for me was like the TV. Like, he looks freaky on TV. TV doesn't do him justice. Like, watching him like be like just stand. Like, same as Romero. Like, Romero's quick, but when you see him close level change, when you see Romero level change in real life, like he's here, I'm watching him. Like I'm watching kind of up like that, looking at him because I'm watching from way outside where it's safe. And I watch him drop his level, and he just drops it like bang, like but in the middle of like people throwing uppercuts and knees and shit at him, and he just drops his level and shoots. It's so quick. And Uriah Hall's the same in that. You're just watching him, and he's like jumping across the cage, spinning, and just doing it like so easy, so easy. That Uriah Hall was another fight that I thought was I was impressed to be honest with you that in that particular fight. Something on Romero that you said you were impressed. You were so impressed, in fact, that you tweeted to him in Spanish. Can you tell us what you tweeted to him in Spanish?
Wow, he puts it on me now. He puts it on me now. He's my translator. He knows what I put there because I had him translate.
It was nice. It was very nice of you.
He's a good guy. He really is. I think he's crazy. But aren't we all?
Yes.
I think so, eh? But he's a good crazy.
Oh, he's a great crazy. He's a great crazy.
I like him.
I really hope to keep in touch with him after our next fight.
And it'll be him for sure, you reckon?
Dana White, I believe, has said something or released something saying that Romero is next in line. I don't see anyone else that's done what Romero has done. He's beaten the top five. He's beaten everyone in the top five, bar me. And, I think it's a fight the fans would like. The first fight was kind of exciting. So, and especially after what Romero has done to Rockhold, what he did to the division, to be fair. Like, he's the scary dude on the block that just goes around starching people. So I don't see another hype fight like that, in the works.
And the reality is, if they gave you anybody else, does it change anything?
Nah, not at all. Like, I've never been fussed, and the mentality we have as a team is like, we've never picked fights. We've never looked for an easy way. We've never tried picking our paths or sitting out and waiting till someone does something else. No, you set them up, we knock them down. When we plan and we prepare and we train accordingly.
Because Weidman, would you prefer Weidman over Romero over Weidman?
No, everyone presents their own problems and obstacles. And there's no easy fights. There's no easy fights.
I have a question then, sort of moving away from that a little bit. Earlier when you were off camera and that you were talking about your little girl, that she goes to
we went to high school,
yeah, to Ashgrove High School. Shout out to the class of 1998 that we were both a part of.
Yes.
What a good class it was. None of them are listening, so it doesn't say whatever you want, Dave. Your sister, how old is your sister?
13.
And how old is your brother?
12.
I'm gonna do a whole podcast on Henry one day, little Henry.
Wow. It's too early to talk to him. He's in trouble. He's grounded as we speak.
So if Rob went from, and I don't know that like even anyone knows this. So Rob went from being just he and Sophia to having little Jack to then having little John, and then had 2 adolescents live with him. which are pre-adolescents, that age group. And now he's got a little girl. So he went from, like, in 3 years, from no kids to 5 kids, 2 of them going into adolescence. So, like, when I go around his house and I see that, I'm so envious of what it must be like to live in that noise.
We call it the village because obviously with 5 kids out of nowhere, you need support. So we had Sophia's mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and her partner moved in with us as well to give us a hand. So there's the 5 kids, it's me and Sophia, and then there's them 2.
Wow.
And when we bought the house, it was enough room for everyone. It was like Jack's room, John's room, spare room, their room. It was like perfect. And then it just went, and then it was like the Brady Bunch. We had kids living in drawers. And
when I go there, it's like, you know, when you see movies and that, like the Mexican drug cartel has like a safe house and they've got mattresses and there's rooms everywhere. It's like that. But it's tidy. It's nice and tidy. It's a bit tidy cartel house.
Tidy cartel house.
And so when you want to explain, like, your little brother and sister living there?
Yeah, so my little brother and sister live with me. They've been living with me for a year now. They lived with me before. It's like something in our family. They've come and dropped out a couple of times, but they live with me now permanently. They go to school in the area. They've made friends, and yeah, we get along really well. It's challenging. Adolescence is challenging. It's especially when
it was hard for me as an adolescent.
Yeah, there's such a disparity in ages between my kids. So you go from just wondering if he's going to spit water on the wall today to, well, he might steal from the classroom and get suspended. You know, so the disparity is there. But it's been great. You know, there is nothing better for my 3 young ones than having their uncle and aunt, you know, around to play with them. I see the way they engage with them and how great it is to have that family bond there. The way Keddy holds the kids and looks at them and plays, the way Henry plays with my sons and tackles them and wrestles them, it's just, you know, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than that. And it's great not only for my little ones, but for them as well, because they understand the family bond we have and just, you know, I think responsibility at a level. There's a responsibility of them being the older siblings, them being the role models for the little ones, you know, and it's been great. It's been great for my adolescent brother and sister, and for my younger ones as well.
Any advice you'd like to give to him and having you ever got like a 12-year-old?
I have a 12-year-old, and then the big gap all the way down to 5. It's tough. Their personalities are worlds apart. You're dealing one who, you know, is crying about spilt milk, and the other one who's still trying to deal with becoming a young lady or a young adult, and the stuff that's gone. I barely made it through my adult adolescent life, so I don't know how.
I always think like,
yeah.
Oh, don't ask me. I was a shit adolescent.
I was the same.
Yeah. I failed adolescence, man.
But yeah, no, like that's a massive responsibility for taking on top of what you already have to deal with in you know, it's the world. But I think I just love that, you know, you just off that, family is the heart of everything, and when you hold that close, like you can't fail.
Awesome. I think everyone has their own agendas and what's important to them, but for me, family's huge. So to have that behind me, you know, I believe I'm unstoppable. And that's the mentality that got me to the title, and that's what we're working with now. Well, I have worked out, but that at 13 years old, my sister Keddy has found her love for money.
Oh.
So she likes what money brings to the table, the independence, the freedom, the goodies she can buy. So that puts me in a particular seat of power, having the money. So it's really easy to bribe her to do whatever I want. So that keeps her in check.
Yeah.
But I've heard that Henry has also got a particular love for money.
Well, all right, we're doing this here. I'll do it. And this is your own fault, Henry. That's what happens. Henry this morning, yesterday morning, thought, my friends have been really nice to me lately, and I want to do something nice for them. So he went into my wallet, took $50, and went on a spending spree at the canteen. And I am dealing with that still, because I have explored all possible options. I went into a fit of rage. I called everyone. I called my dad. I called Fab. I called my mom. I called everyone. And I just went on a rant. I felt bad for Fab because he was sick and he was tired. And he spoke to me and I was so angry. Like, I had to leave the house. I was that angry. I've never been that angry before. And we started talking about boarding school and military school. And I'm serious. And then Fab made it apparent that boarding school is $50,000. And I was like, well, he's not worth $50,000. He can have $50. Like, and yeah, and like, obviously, we're taking the joke out of it now, but it's a serious thing. Stealing's never good, especially when it's your family. But we're on top of it now. He's currently grounded indefinitely until I work out.
It's a hard one to manage too, because he actually went out and brought stuff for people and say, "Hey, free lunch." It wasn't like he went off and brought a brand new pair of jeans or something selfish.
But I can't reward.
You can't reward that. That's a tough one.
It's like a bad and a good.
Yeah, you have to get some comments on that. Parenting advice for.
Well, right now I've got him in isolation. That's pretty good. So like,
what do you mean? What does that even mean?
I call it isolation. So I put him in he's stuck in his room. And I even yesterday I was so mad. I was thinking, I'm gonna take this kid out of school so that he doesn't even get fresh air when he's going to school. Like, I started thinking about prison and laws and doing that sort of stuff.
But what's isolation like?
He's locked in his room. And I remember as a kid, being stuck in your room for an hour felt like eternity.
Yeah, but I realise this, but because like
he's in his room for a week, only there.
Yeah, but like there's the whole Geneva Convention and all that stuff. Like I just want to know like food. Can he?
he can eat. He can relieve himself. There's a bucket. But he's not allowed out. And what's great is
where does he eat dinner?
He goes Sophia cracked. I wanted him to eat dinner upstairs in the room. honest to God. But when I got home, he was downstairs with the family. Sophia said she brought him down, and I did have it in me to make her cry as well. But mate, he'd be in there right now if I had my way. He wouldn't be at school. He'd be in there for another 2 weeks.
Okay, so once he eats it, what about the rest of the time? So does he just sit there? Does he have books?
This is the best part. Not only is he stuck in his room, it's not his room. It's the spare room. There's nothing in there. There's just a bed, and he sits there
for how long?
All day. Bar school. Because obviously I'm not allowed to take him out of school.
So when he comes home,
he can't ground from school apparently.
When he comes home, he sits in the.
He's in. What time is it? Yeah, he's in the room right now.
And there's no TV. There's no TV.
There's no books. There's nothing. He's sitting there having a good hard think about himself.
How long is this going to go for?
Probably I don't want to watch. He won't watch. He's grounded. I told him 2 weeks. Which is a big stretch, 2 weeks.
Yeah, how long is that in Henry time?
3 years, 4 years. He took it on the chin, but like, he doesn't complain, doesn't whinge. He's good like that. But I'll probably let him off in a few days. Can't imagine what it's like being in that room.
I remember you grounded him before as well. What was that story for?
Oh, which one, mate? There's too many.
Yeah, we were in the car, right? And we'd go to training. And Rob's been known to give the odd excuse for not coming to training.
There's nothing.
And he goes, but he got a phone call while he was with me that Henry had told the story.
Yeah, I answered my phone and really excited and keen to go to training, as I always am. I'm on the way, on the road, going to training, super happy and excited. And I get a phone call from my wife going, "Babe, you're going to have to rush Henry to the hospital. He's eating batteries.
Batteries?
And I said, what do you mean he ate batteries? He goes, yeah, he ate batteries. And I said, why do I have to take him to the hospital? He goes, because apparently they can dissolve your stomach lining and all sorts of bad stuff. And I was livid that day. Because it's not like he was Jack 2.5 and ate a battery and didn't know what it was. He's 12.
Yeah.
He knows what a battery is. And he knows, he can read the label on the packet that says, do not ingest. And he still ate it.
Tell the story how he ate, why he ate, who did him.
He was with his mates. I'm sure half the dumb things he does is just to show off a little bit. But he goes over to his mate and says, dare me to eat this. And his mate goes, no, don't do it. And he ate the battery. And I spent the afternoon in the emergency ward with a crying Henry next to me because the car trip with me and him was not pleasant. Not pleasant. And that was another fun one. But I've got tons of them because he's one of those kids that does before he thinks. And we've got a new mantra. How you like this? We've got a new mantra he has to repeat to me every day, which is think before I act.
When does he say it?
Every day when I ask him, I go, what's your mantra, Henry? He goes, think before I act.
It's the best. It's the best. He's a great kid, man. He does.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, he comes to grappling. He grapples twice a week at the gym. Kede, he grapples. How many days does she grapple?
3 or 4. Oh, 3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4, and she helps out. Like she's got a job.
Yeah,
she's got a job at the gym now. She helps out with the little kids class.
Which she hasn't been paid for yet.
Oh, yeah, she hasn't, eh? Sorry, I've been sick. I called staff. Yeah, how horrible staff is, Dave? It's the worst. I have staff, and I feel sick, and so I haven't paid his sister. Otherwise, I would have paid her. So, she's working there now, and she's doing. Rob, what? So you're their foster guardian?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what that is and how that works and how the whole thing? What's a foster care system like? How difficult is it? What was it like seeing them in there?
Yeah, I've obviously had some dramas in my family and whatnot. No family's perfect, and you make it work the way you can. And they've been in foster care when they're much, much younger. For the majority of their younger years, they were in the foster care system, which is I don't think I'm in a position to say whether it's good or bad, because it's obviously a system that's needed, but how it's executed, I don't agree with, because obviously I've had a lot of dealing. So when they were first in the foster care, I wasn't even of age. I wasn't in a position to take them under my wing. I was just leaving school, so I had to go through a series of evaluations and tests and stuff just to get qualified enough to see them or to be a foster guardian and to go through the proper channels. And I think it's hard for any kid to be moved from a family, to be moved from another family, to be moved from schools, to lose friends, families, and all their stability that they've ever known. So it's hard. And I really do feel for a lot of the kids in foster care. And for the system itself, because there are a lot of workers that wish they could be doing more, that they just don't have the funds or they don't have the groundwork, or it just can't be done at this point. So I really do hope the whole foster care system can be reassessed and we can make it better for a lot of other kids that unfortunately are still in this system, in this program. But I managed to luckily get to a position where I was financially able to take on my brother and sister, because I didn't come from a big family of money. So I went into the world with my own hands, and that's about it. Obviously, my father and mother gave me the best skill sets they could to make the best of my opportunities, and I think I've done that pretty well. But I had to work my way up. So when I was in a position to take the kids in, I jumped at it. And, they live with me, and they're super happy, and Sophia loves them as much as I do. Probably more sometimes, probably much more sometimes. But it's great. We have a really good family environment.
And they seem like they're really, really happy. Like, I'll watch them, like they're grappling and that. I see them at grappling, I should say, and yeah, they just seem like really, really happy kids. Like they're really, and on the, like, can you imagine as well as you work in that social work kind of scene, like you can imagine how hard it would be. Like, yeah, as teachers, sometimes you see a kid and you're like, man, come and live with me. You know what I mean? Like, and it would absolutely be hard.
It's hard, and I can't express how much I feel for the kids that are in foster care.
The ones aren't going home, kind of thing.
Yeah, the ones that there is no home to go back to. You know, there's this, dude. There are some stories that keep you up at night that you hear of like repeat offenders and stuff that go home and then something happens and they're back in and they're back out, and people that go through like 10, 20 families, 20 different schools. It's like how are you supposed to? How do you live like that? How do you build any sort of support network, friends, family, any sort of normality with that? So yeah, I think it's a lot of it's due to a lot of limitations on the whole system itself. But there are a lot of other people smarter than me, you know, arguing this topic. So
no, but it's interesting to get your view on it as well, and I think like it adds perspective to who you are, like as well. Like I don't think a lot of people know the story, and it's not a sob story. And Rob, to me, anyways, never come across a person that gives a sob story and like, you know, oh poor me, you know, like
you can't, because like I'm gifted. I've been gifted like in other ways that other people haven't been, you know. And you got to take the good with the bad sometimes, and it's not even bad sometimes. Sometimes it's just a change, and change is good. But like sometimes when you go to the foster organisations, you see sometimes the kids are around that are just hanging out for the day or having an evaluation. You're like, come on with me, mate.
Yeah.
Come with me. You just want to take them all in. You're like, come with me. It's cool.
That would be horrible, though. I wouldn't like. No, honestly, like that kills me. Yeah, like if I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh my god, I want to take. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Shout out to the caseworkers,
mate. Honestly, like,
I've dealt with a lot of caseworkers, and what they do and what they put up with is unbelievable. Like, because not every separation is good and clean. Some are bad, and they have to cop it. They cop both sides. They're on both sides of the phone. And respect, shout out, caseworkers. You guys are the best.
They are. Some of those people, when you talk to them, and it's just incredible. People that have helped you coming through, like people that stood out. Not necessarily even that people are going to know. Like someone, you know, there might be people that you think, okay, especially people that helped you when, I don't know, they had no reason to help you. They didn't know who you were way before, maybe while you were in primary school. But people that stand out in your mind.
I think first and foremost, I'm going to have to mention my dad, who was very switched on, and he didn't have the best resources to obviously just buy me a mansion or buy me the training I needed, buy me this and buy me that. But he was a good dad. He did the right things for me, and he equipped me with the best skill set to get out that he could. You know, and that's all you can really ask for in a family. He was always there for him. You know, ultimately, everything derives from that. So
just to clarify, do you want to tell us who you were raised with?
Yeah, so me and my brother lived with my father.
Which brother? Not little Henry?
No, I have another brother called Stephen. He's 2 years younger than me. And me and him lived with my dad in Manai. That's where we grew up. And that's where we grew up as teenagers, as young boys in the housing commission, just getting up to mischief. And my dad did that solo. He put up with a lot of crap. And
during your teenage years?
Yeah.
Were you a bad teenage kid?
I wouldn't say bad. I wasn't bad. I was a pain in the ass. Like, I didn't make it easy. You know what I mean? And
because it's such an easy person to deal with now.
Yeah, man. You know, I like to think that I just get along with everyone, and you know, I'm a blessing to be around.
Yeah, you are.
But no, my dad put up with a lot of crap from me and my brother, and respect to sticking it through and not leaving us. Yeah.
So the question was people that have helped you. So your dad?
Yeah, my dad. I think a big. I'm gonna. You might like it, but I'm gonna a massive catalyst for me, especially in terms of me as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants to go out there and wants to be successful, and wants to run their own business, and wants to own multiple properties, and wants to do right by myself and do the right things to get there. A massive catalyst for me was meeting you.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you. Mr. Fabrizio Whittaker. He was.
We won't talk about that. We'll talk. Don't talk about that.
No, I have to. You brought it up.
Wasn't going there.
And we had a sit down when this was just after the New Zealand fight, and I was still going through those changes of, okay, I'm staying home now. I'm closer with my family. My family's good. We're closer than ever. We've gotten through the hardships that was being apart and being distant and fracturing the relationship a little bit. You know, I did some things I'm proud of. I wasn't the man I wanted to be at that point. And after that point, I sat down with you, and obviously you saw my potential and where I could go, but I still had no idea. But there's a part of me that always knew that it's like, and it might be a part of every fighter that, you know, you say they have that thing, but I never look at a guy and say, oh, I can't beat you, or you would beat me. I always, no matter who it is, the bigger guys, lighter guys, I look at them and I think, I can beat you. Like, and that was when I wasn't training and stuff. And it's always been there, but I've never really backed myself, never put 2 feet in. And sitting down with you, you just spoke to me. You spoke to me about a lot of things, about my training, about where I wanted to go, about perspective, about goal setting. And you really did open up my eyes and mind to a lot of things that I think might have been there, might have not been there, but you solidified a lot of them, you know, and in doing that, and I was receptive to it. I really was. I sucked it all in and I said, you know, this is it. This is how I'm going to do this. And then I started working with you, and we started walking closer together, and you started introducing me to a lot of your contacts. And Andrew Canadley, you know, he's been one of the biggest helps moving through my career. He was the first man to sponsor me before I was anything like.
Shout out to Kaplan Homes.
Shout out to Kaplan Homes. First man to sponsor me before I was anyone or anything. This was, you know, I had one win from the back-to-back losses, and he said, "No, we can get you there. We'll do it." And he jumped on as a manager at that point as well. You know? So yeah, it was, and through your networks and yourself helping me, and we just communicated better with the other coaches and started working together towards a singular goal of, let's be the best ever. And what's funny is that you obviously, and you can elaborate further, you obviously saw my potential and where I could go and where, you know, my faults or whatever I had and how to get around them. But you never mentioned to me about getting the championship or anything at that point. You said, if you train hard, I don't see why there's any reason you can't be in the top 15. And I was like, really? The top 15? That's so, there's so many people to get through. And he goes, man, I think you could do it. And it's like, and then, yeah, maybe you take it from here, because then we had a couple more discussions from that, and I'll let you take over.
About how good I am as a person.
Yeah, about how you're the ultimate role model.
Yeah, I think that the thing for me, the thing that's helped me in coaching the most is I think being a TAFE teacher for the time that I have been, just because TAFE, the way at least the way I understand it, you know, I'll probably say this and I'll fire me, you know, in TAFE, is, yeah, they'll go, what? Get him out of there. No, I think for me, the biggest thing is, because I'm not really like a martial, I like martial arts, but I'm not a martial artist, like, as far as like, there are heaps better people in me at the gym, like in my own gym, let alone all the coaches.
You're only letting people that can beat you.
If that, I only do the kids
selectively.
No, it's identifying skill gaps and then creating the scaffolding for the educational processes to be able to meet those skill gaps. So, for example, with Rob or with anyone, for instance, if I sit down and I'm talking to him, I think we were speaking about it before. It's just identifying the fact that you're having a discussion about politics, and then you ask someone to write an essay about politics, and then the essay comes back, it's not good. You give the kid 0 and you walk off, and you go, "Kid doesn't know anything. Read this essay; it's terrible." Then you sit back down with the kid and you go through it. You look at the essay again, you realise it's like full of spelling mistakes, blah 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 blah. But when you talk to him, like, the subject content is fine. And with Rob, the subject content was fine. Like, he could fight. And I think I attribute your ability to fight as inherent. And then I think you being with Henry for the amount of time that you were and having the relationship with him, I also believe that made you a ready-made fighter at that stage. Especially at a time where there were not many people doing MMA in Sydney. So when I see the skill gaps in Rob, I think there were a lot of the skill gaps were in as far as work ethic were concerned. We're all working on that, but like understanding that if there's 24 hours in a day, 8 of them are going to be spent sleeping, well, what are you going to do with the rest of your time? There's that. There's the fact of really starting to see it as a job and as a career and the ability to implement those things. But in fairness to Rob, like, he took it in, because you can have this conversation. I'm sure you've had this conversation with people a million times as a teacher as well. You can have it with staff members, and people look at you with like a dead shark on LSD, like and you're like, "Good, we had the chat," and they're like, yeah. All right, no. But I think identifying the skill gaps was massive, and having I think an understanding of like networks and how you use them, and how it has to be reciprocated. It has to go both ways with networks. Like, you can't go to the world too many times. You have to go back and fill up the world, But the skill gaps identification is probably the only area that I really work in with Rob, because we've got wrestling coaches, jiu-jitsu coaches, striking coaches, all of that. And my main thing is that skill gap identification, and you can take that as far as you want with whatever it is. That's my role as far as I'm going to go. Do you want to talk a little bit more about Andrew?
Yeah, so when I first got involved with you and started wrestling at Cabra, I met Andrew Canale, and he is a great guy. He followed the sport, not super close, but
no, don't say. He believes he does. He genuinely believes he does. He rings me sometimes and gives some mad strategy, and out of respect, I listen to him, but he's got no idea.
But yeah, I think he saw just a young kid who wants to get in and have a crack, and I think maybe as a friend, he took a leap and said, "You know what, I'm going to help you out and jump on board." And because I didn't have a lot of things in place, I needed structure, and I needed guidance. I really did at the beginning stages, and Andrew jumped on board as my manager and helped me out with the first sponsorship from Captain Holmes, which was kicking off point. But it made the biggest difference then, because I wasn't making a lot of money. I was losing fights, and I needed that chance to get back in there and improve. But then not only did he jump on board as a sponsor and as a manager, but he also became my lead training partner.
He can wrestle.
He became my lead training partner.
Wrestled his whole life.
So for like a lot of the prep work for a lot of the fights, Andrew Canale would come in and just work wrestling tirelessly with me on the wall drills for hours, like breaking sessions, and yeah, he put in the work with me, and I think he was my main sparring partner against
Brunson.
Like
his main wrestling partner for Brunson. Yeah.
Was Andrew Canale, manager / sponsor / builder. So.
I'll just give a little bit of perspective as to who Andrew Canale is. So Andrew Canappi runs Kaplan Homes, and he also runs Avoca Clothing. He's worked in the building industry for as long as I can remember, and he's the man to build the houses for you if anyone's interested. Can't say enough about him, and he's a person that so say for example, I'm kind of scared to ask him, if I say to him, hey Andrew, help us, we're opening up a gym, and can you help us out? And he says, yep. And then so the gym at Gracie Smith and Grange, there's probably $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 worth of stuff there that Alex and I didn't factor in. He was the one that put in time and effort, and and at the cost of his own business. He didn't have to. And then when he was managing Rob, when I'm saying he was managing Rob, he wasn't I've got a couple of hours free, I'm going to ring the sponsor that I know. No, he was full-time managing him.
100%.
Well, at the same time, he's running a building company, and he's building, I don't know how many houses a year. I'm going to butcher it, so I don't even want to guess. So he's working as a manager, and
then coming in and wrestling.
That night, running a building company. He's got a wife and kids. And he's an exceptional human being, absolutely exceptional human being. So shout out to Andrew.
Thanks, mate.
Henry, do you want to talk on Henry?
Yeah, so Henry
This
Perez,
is not your little brother, by the way, for anyone listening.
Henry Perez, my first ever coach. I started Hapkido with him after I had done karate, and Hapkido became MMA, and then I trained with him MMA for 10 years. And he's another one of those role models that you said, people that helped me at the beginning, because I think he was another guy that saw that I could fight and saw potential in me, and took me under his wing. He really put in the work for my training, and helped me along the way. And he became more than just a coach. He became a mentor and almost like a second father figure for a while. And I was close with him and all his sons as well. We all grew up together, and we just trained. So I think I owe a lot of my base fighting abilities to Henry's work, and Henry putting in work for me. In recent years, I should say, me and Henry have going our separate ways for a little bit. I think it's time. If you train with someone from when you were 14 all the way through to an adult, a grown man, it's time to realise that I need to spread my wings a little bit. It's important for me to make and live and die by decisions that I make. So I felt that it was time that I just went out on my own adventure for a bit, and then just tread my own path for a while. And we're cool still. We maybe one day we get back together and we work on businesses or train or gym work together at some other point. But for right now, we're doing our own things.
Because I spent a lot of time with him, overseas with you and whatnot, for all different camps, and his style and his approach, in particular with your striking, is very, very prevalent in your style. How essential is that to your development with your kicks, your unorthodox striking and whatnot?
It was super important. I think if you look at the broad scope thing, I think every little bit of training I've done when I was younger has augmented into what it is now. I think but definitely stylistically, Henry and me created my style, and it's very unique to me and what I do. I think there's a lot of guys that try out there to emulate it, but it's very hard because it is quite unique, I believe, and hard to get by.
All right. What's your relationship like with I suppose the guy who looks after all your grappling, which is Alex?
Alex Fartez, yeah, he's my head grappling coach, and he's great relationship. He's my coaching business partner and just another mentor in my life right now. He's a great, honest man, and I really like his work ethic and his mentality to combat as a whole really resonates with me. It really, I get it. And he gets it, and that's why we work so well together, and we get the results we do.
Yeah, Alex is also the head instructor for the GAP program, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu program we're on with TAFE, and he's also David Roberts' sparring partner.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that, Dave.
It's a session of him getting me on the mats, making me cry like a little bitch, and then me walking around for the rest of the week in absolute pain. And I love it. But he's so gentle. He's such an awesome guy. Hey? Like I've never met someone who's just so willing to give, and he's just fantastic. And yeah, I like the training. After doing one session, I had a newfound respect for what both of you guys do, and I just know I'm so unfit.
What's so your what's the training like for you? Like, what do you do with Alex?
What do I do with Alex?
Because you're a beginner. Like people don't know. Like, say, are you a beginner?
I am a super beginner. Probably. I think the first time ever I looked at sort of wrestling or grappling, I came to you and you used to work at PCYC, and I just seen all the guys do all the spins on their heads and you do the flips and all that sort of stuff. I think I'd done the warm up. I got through the warm-up and I thought that was the whole session. But that was only the 10-minute warm-up and I was like gone. And then you just kept going. But like, yeah, just the level and the way how you do stuff. I just love now just having that peek into it. And then hearing people comment on Facebook and stuff about fighting and someone calling you. I said, Fab, you probably get heaps of calls now on, hey, you should use this strategy from people who have actually never stepped on a mat before, even if it's for a fundamental class. So pretty much what Alex does with me is pretty much gives me the fitness that I need to not die.
Man, the thing I find pretty amazing with Alex, apart from his work ethic is like pretty much unrivaled. Like, it's right up there with like Andrew or any of those guys that works with us. But he teaches jiu-jitsu for Rob and for all the other fighters, and he coordinates all the grappling for those guys. Gets in all different jiu-jitsu coaches, different training partners, organizes all of that. Has a family, runs a gym, and then teaches all the beginners classes, teaches all the fundamentals classes, all the different. And he's like, his background is from, I think he got all his belts through Mario Sperry from Brazilian top team, and Murilo Bustamante. Like that's where he comes from. That like Carlson Gracie school of jiu-jitsu is like, it's a hard dude, but then at the same time, his ability to resonate and teach the fundamentals classes, the beginner classes to everyone is. We're very, very lucky to have him within that circle, and then he runs all the jiu-jitsu stuff for the GAP program. So that's Alex.
Super lucky.
Very lucky.
It's funny, today I went in and grappled, and it was a death session. It was death hard, and I thought I was going to pass out on one stage. It was hard, and Alex, and I go to Alex, and no, Jacob goes to Alex, not bad for his first session, and Alex looks at me and goes, "It's your first session?" And I go, "Yeah," and he goes, "But you were there on Saturday." I was like, "Well, okay, second session." He goes, "Second session, stop crying."
Another guy, two other dudes, both Justin Lang and Justin Fitzgerald. How do you feel about them?
So, Justin Fitzgerald is my head boxing coach. He's worked with me since the beginning as well, since we started making big changes and started on our title run. So when I entered the middleweight division, started getting a lot of success. He was a part of it, and this was back when we were wrestling.
I personally feel Justin came on board after we started being successful.
I feel like at Cabramatta, when I was going out to Cabra to wrestle at the PCYC, Justin would come in also, and we'd go down to one of the abandoned rooms and do our pad sessions in there, and that's kind of where we started. And
wait, can you explain that too, like at Cabra PCYC, because people don't get that like as well. We had this little squash court room, and it was just like me, him, and Gurian, this Macedonian dude that I'm pretty sure is like legally crazy. He's like certified insane. So we used to be in that squash court and do like the boxing and the wrestling, and the showers were all moldy and shit.
Yeah, it was gross. It was really gross. But no, we got the work in there though, and we got the results. But that's how me and Justin's relationship started, and it's been uphill ever since. He's since opened up his own gym at Stand Strong Boxing in Minto, and I go there now, and we hit pads. All the guys go there now, and our boxing and stand-up ability has just gone through the roof. He's really touched up on a lot of little small details, and it's made the biggest differences in my fights and performance and training. Not to mention, he's just a top bloke. He's a great guy. He's very smart, very clever, very in tune with striking.
He's worked with a bunch of different guys. I think he was in Sakyo's corner during a bunch of title fights, and Sakyo Big Guy we're talking about, and he's worked with a whole bunch of guys out of Team Fennec and that as well. He's
been in the field for a long time. Been around some high caliber fighters.
Justin Lang?
And Justin Lang is a guy that we used to roll way back in TP days. That's how our relationship started. That's how I knew him through. And then once we established some sort of semblance of order in my training and some consistency, I needed a strength and conditioning coach, but one that agreed with me, because I need things to work out. Like not every trainer and coach is going to agree with you and work the best way that you need it to be. So when I met Justin Lang, and we spoke, and we spoke about his ideology about fitness and training and how it should be, and when we did a session, I just got him back. He's head of all my rehab, prehab, strength and conditioning.
Where's that at?
That Cronulla Miranda Live Athletic. I head down there 3 days a week and get all my work in.
And I think the last coach in that mix there is Stu.
So yeah, Stu McKinnon. So
can I just say one thing about Stu? Have you seen Stu McKinnon?
No.
Right, he looks like the roughest dude in the world. And he talks like this. He's like the roughest dude.
Yeah.
But the words that come out of his mouth when you talk to him, he's like a super nice guy. Right? But even when he texts you, like I get texts of him and the words are like, hope you have a nice day, mate, or something like that. But I never read them in my voice. I always read them in his voice. And it's like, it's at odds. Like, hope you have a good day, mate.
And he's a top guy. I met him through, we were looking up top kickboxers and striking guys for sparring partners. And we were looking up a lot of different guys. And I think you said like the best kickboxers in Australia is McKinnon. Get out there and suss it out. And I called up and said, hey man, is it all right if I come down and spar a bit or work some pads with you? And I went out there, did some pads, did some sparring, and mate, fell in love with it. He's so talented. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He's had a ton of fights. And there's another one of those things where his mentality behind combat as a whole really resonates with me. And just working with a guy of that caliber, it's just, how can't I be getting better? So, yeah, that started off a really fruitful relationship, and we've been working together ever since as well.
He and his brother, so two brothers, they're like genuinely good guys, like really, really genuinely good guys. And they're so tough, dude. So tough. Like his brother, Steve. Did you spar them?
Yeah, Steve is like one of the toughest dudes I know. If you've seen him fight, you'll understand. Like, wow, and they've been
like legitimately like tough.
They've been in hundreds of fights. Kickboxing is not easy. Like in my opinion, it's way tougher than MMA. Like the toll it takes on your body is huge.
Just kind of in closing, anyone we should be looking at
in regards to what?
Coming up, anyone that you maybe trains with you, works with you?
Yeah, definitely. I've mentioned this before in other interviews and stuff, that I have the best team in the world, and I stand by that. and my training partners reflect that. You know, I have a bunch of guys coming up. You know, Jacob Malcoon, David Francis, Izzy Fitikefu coming up, and some younger guys also coming up that they're still building their skill gaps. But we've got those three guys who are main primary sparring partners. They're in the gym with me, sweating, bleeding, fighting with me every day. We wrestle together, box together, spar together, and we're a tight-knit group. And our work ethic and programs and systems that we have in place is starting to reflect that. And the caliber of my training partners, in my opinion, is a lot higher than that of a lot of dudes in the UFC right now. But we're doing the right things. We're building their skill sets up to a level where they're just going to walk through people. And I think my success is reflective a lot to the people I have around me, such as my coaching staff, my friends, my sponsors, and my training partners.
What do you think also, because one of your training partners had a really good win on the weekend, Tyson, what do you think of that?
That was absolutely amazing. Training with Tyson in the lead up before I got really sick and then, you know, had to step away. And that was slick. He was winning in the hands the whole fight. I believe it was just a matter of time.
Big leg kick, he got that dude.
Yeah, massive.
And the other guy's tough.
And he rocked him like a bunch of times, a bunch of shots. And then to pull off that slick Kimura was absolutely just on point. I messaged that to him, like, he was on point. It was slick. I've never seen him do it at training, but I'm glad he doesn't though.
No, he'd rip your arm.
I would have taken my socket out with it. That was unreal. You know, I think he's going to go a lot of places. And
he's got all the tools, I think,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, he's going to be tough for a lot of those other guys.
What do you think what's he like to have in training for you?
He's great. He's a great guy. He's funny and fun to be around, but he's tough, strong, and athletic. He can get the training in. He's a great partner. You know,
he's a big dude too. He's a huge dude.
He's very big, but he's not bad about it. You know, he doesn't try to hurt you or try to injure you. He's a sweetheart.
What a sweetie.
Yeah.
What about favourite fighter of all time?
My favourite fighter of all time is Bam Bam.
Me too, Bam Bam. Bam Bam, my favourite fighter of all time. Why, Rob?
You're just saying that because you're scared of him.
I am scared of him. You know what he reminds me of? Every kid I've ever been scared of. When you're growing up, like big giant kid.
No, he impressed me with that last fight. Skill wise and MMA wise, he impressed me. He dismantled that guy. And but on a personal level, I like his attitude. He's rough around the edges. He is who he is, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what you hate things. He's running his own agenda, his own ship, and he likes fighting. And I have jumped on the bandwagon. I'm petitioning for a lead spot on the bandwagon, actually.
Me too. Me too. I guess that's us anyways. Let's wrap it up. We're running out of time because we have only a little few hours in the day. Thanks heaps, Dave and Ross, and hope people watch us again.
Yeah, well, this is the first one. It's been a little rough. We've got some learning curves to get around. But, yeah, we're just going to get them out there. And, yeah, if you want to listen. If you don't, I don't care.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.